All right, welcome. We're live. Hey, this is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Today is, let's see. Don't even know. It's Tuesday, 13th of December, 2022. And I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from Baker's Green Acres in Marion, Michigan. Yeah, look at that. All right, what a day. What a day. Where do I start? Let's catch people up with what's been going on here. We finished up our instructional season. We had Homestead charcuterie class this weekend, and it was a great success. Had a really good class. It wasn't as full as we're used to, but we kind of get it. Yeah, we kind of get it. Hey, Keith, how you doing? Outstanding class, though. Really outstanding. We had some very interesting people, a lot of really cool conversations along the way. Made me think of some things. And along those lines, we come up with a good idea for a conversation for tonight, which, kind of plays into some things that I've seen lately. So the conversation for the night is going to be homesteading your ticket out of the matrix. Hi, Belva. So homestead charcuterie is a little bit different from the homestead hog harvest in that when the students get here Saturday morning, we start at 9:00. Ina Stanley's with us. Hey there from Appalachial, finally catching alive. Appalachial? That doesn't sound familiar. And Off Grid with Dave and Sonia. Right on, right on. Students show up, and we've already slaughtered the pig. We do that on Friday, and the pig is laid out on the tables and two halves. And so we usually have a team of either 3 or 4 on each half. And all right, the cleric's with us, right on. And this class, we had 3 on each half. And then we overlap the Homestead Hog Harvest a little bit in that we break the halves down into primals, and then those, okay, Southern Appalachia. Okay. What state is that? And then we go from there. Then some of those we break down into subprimals, and then generally about 2:00 in the afternoon, we take lunch about noon. We're getting into the chemistry of making charcuterie. And if you don't know what that is, it's the process of pork preservation. And, a lot of times we get hung up on, it is the art of pork preservation. And it kind of sends it in a strange direction, I think, where this is just pork preservation is what it is. And why do we want to preserve pork? Well, it's a good move to prepare for the upcoming season where you will need food to eat, not necessarily artisan-y, it can just be farmy. You're preparing for the next season that's going to come, the next thing that's going to come that you're going to need food for. And the reason why I came up with this title, Your Exit from the Matrix, is because when you're in homesteading and you're finding your way through it. Okay. Ina Stanley is in North Georgia, right on. And Zumwalt's with us. Zumwalt, it's about time you got in here. So, and Ben Carlson too, right on. So, for a long time, I've been hung up on this whole exit from America 1.0, and let's move into America 2.0. And as many of you know who've listened to this channel for a long time, way, way back, even before the Wu flu, there was a lot of things going on. And I kept saying, yeah, I know, but I just feel optimistic about what's coming. I just feel optimistic. It's just, I got a good feeling we're going to come out of this. And then it was, oh, okay, the political system it's going to take us through. And then we started to see that kind of fall apart everywhere. And the people that we thought were our friends wound up doing crazy things. And you never really know who to get behind anymore. And then I really started to question, are any of those guys who we should be um, hitching our wagon to? Is there any person that's going to take us to the promised land, as it were? And when I really think about that, that's never happened. Um, any anything that I've been involved in, whether it's working for a company or working for the Air Force, my good time there, my prosperity within that organization depended on me. What was I going to make of it? Was I going to play their game completely and rely on that for my life? Or was I going to, be involved and work it uh, to a place that worked for me? And I would say it was the latter. I had to work it to a place that worked for me. And so, what we have going on in our country right now, we're kind of hoping that somebody's going to step in and fix things. Do you think that's going to happen? I don't know. We could have somebody that steps in and does something good, but I don't know about fixing things. And I really think that America 2.0 is got something to do with the system that is around us right now that seems to be falling apart at every move. At every move, it's falling apart. All the institutions that we thought we could depend on, they're letting us down. Like by the numbers, they're letting us down. And you kind of wonder, will they be around this time next year or 2 years from now? It's hard to say. They don't look very potent. They don't look like they're doing very good. Okay, so I kind of think that system is collapsing and it is failing. And see you later. Goodbye. Uh, More specific to what we do as homesteaders and small farmers, uh, you have our counterpart that is industrial agriculture. And I don't know anybody that would exclaim, but it's doing really good, if they were honest about it. I don't think they would. See, in small farms and in homesteading, we don't get subsidies from the US government. They're not swooping in and if things don't go right, giving us some money to make sure we can make it through. So we either make it or we don't. And those of us that do make it are doing something right, are dealing with reality, the reality of life and death, work, no work, get it done or don't get it done, make it work or accept failure, that type of thing. This weekend, I had people here, and there was one guy in particular that was asking me questions, and they were along the lines of regulatory things, right? And I tried to explain to him several times that, well, the regulators, they're kind of playing a different game than we're playing here. We're playing the US Constitution game that under the Fifth Amendment, our life, our liberty, and our property, which is also our process, is protected under due process of law. right? And if there's no law saying I can't do it, then nobody can stop me from doing it, right? So if I'm not breaking a law, I'm on private property, I've made no agreement to not do it, nobody can stop me. And if I have to explain that a little bit better, let's say I go to a public park, right? A public park, it's public property, and it says to go in there, there's a sign there that says dogs must be on a leash, right? If you go in there, you're agreeing with what the people who run that place have said. Dogs must be on a leash. If you don't put your dog on a leash, then that's not the place for you. So if you go in there without your dog off the leash, with your dog off the leash, and then somebody comes and says something to you, yeah, man, but I got constitutional rights. No, by coming in here, you've actually agreed to having your dog on a leash. But on private property, and I'm not talking about homeowners associates, I'm talking private property, right? You've made no agreements with anybody as far as outside of the US Constitution, hopefully. Now, if you have a license with somebody or a permit from somebody, then you've made an agreement and they're going to hold you to the agreement that you've made. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, maybe they won't care. But probably they will. Same as if, you have a cable company come and put in a satellite dish and they say, okay, this is going to enable you to get the internet. You pay your bill and you'll have the internet, but you pay your bill and you don't have the internet. That's happened to me. And I would call the lady, and she was nasty, some pastor's wife from around here. She was nasty as can be. And I had to go over her head and over his head, right? To say, no, I want to be paid back for the months that I've paid for this, and my internet has not worked. And I finally got it resolved, but we had an agreement. And basically what it was is the guy, the technician, just didn't want to get his what out here and adjust the thing because he had to climb up pretty high and he doesn't like climbing up high, I guess. So we did get it resolved. But when it comes to private property, if you're doing a process that is not illegal, I'm not saying that you can do human sacrifice and get away with it on private property. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you can manufacture methamphetamine, but any of the farm things that we do, even in this state, you can now grow marijuana, I guess, because marijuana has been taken off the controlled substance roster. It's no longer a controlled substance, right? So, yes, please hit the thumbs up. Sergeant Zumwalt has reminded me to please hit the thumbs up. If you would all do that, that will help us out a lot. We're trying to be as big as the NRA here. So you go around within the, like in town, it's an incorporated town, and to rent store footage in that town, you may have to comply with their rules, similar to if you buy a house in a homeowners association. You're going to have to sign a dotted line before you take possession of it. And it's going to say that you have to comply with this, this, and this. Some of those things may not be within your constitutional rights, but if you sign it, you've just signed them away. It's sort of like that out here on private property. If you want to have, let's say, a food establishment license, they'll come out, they'll look around. You got screens on the windows, you got a hand washing sink, you got washable walls. Okay, sign here and pay your $180. Now it's like $250. And now you're you're a licensed, but the bottom, the fine print is but we can come on your property whenever we want to inspect this to see if you're doing things the right way, right? Now that is 180 degrees out from the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution, right? Because Fourth Amendment to the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution says that you are safe from unreasonable, and unreasonable would be no notice, search or seizures of your property. Unreasonable. That's pretty kind of nebulous, really, but about the only way that they can search your property is if they get a warrant. And to get a warrant, you have to have a law enforcement officer swear that to a judge that he believes that the law is being broken. And what law is going to be broken if you're making sandwiches on your own property? No laws, right? So they kind of push this a little bit, and they lure you into licensing agreements, and you would believe that you are better off being licensed because then the Department of whatever is kind of backing you up. They've said that you're doing things right. Where in my case, we got licensed in our shop. They came the first time. Some gender confused person came the first time, and then they never came again. We just had to send in money after that until until things went south with them because of some other incident. And then we found out that, you can operate very nicely without any kind of licensing from them. As a matter of fact, the license doesn't really give you much advantage at all, you know? And then, like, I'm having this conversation with this guy this weekend, and he kept going back to, yeah, but if they show up, well, wait a minute, they can't show up. They can't come on your property without your invitation. You've made no agreement with them that they can come on your property without you inviting them on or without a warrant, saying, with testimony to a judge that you are breaking law, right? So you're actually quite authorized to do anything on your homestead that is not illegal. It's not illegal. Now, if you want to get into the area of manufacturing alcohol, that's different. They got a whole nother department for that, the BATF. And I don't know about those guys. I don't know about that. I think that has to be done under license, but I don't know everything there is to know about that. And I really don't care to. It's not in my wheelhouse. And I don't know. I don't really care. Yeah, let's go bigger than the NRA for sure. And so with that in mind, America 2.0 is going to be people who make a conscious decision to live intentionally, produce their own food, learn how to homestead, be self-sufficient, take care of themselves. And I think everybody else is going to be herded someplace else. Because and I don't think this has been necessarily done to us, right? I think it's very similar to what we see on reservations, Indian reservations. I used to live out west, and a couple times I went to an Indian reservation. So I want to see what it was like. There was a time in my life where I thought maybe I could help. Maybe I could help. I thought I could help. And so I would go there and I would see a once proud, ferocious people deteriorated to the point where you'd kind of wonder, are they even going to survive? And then the next thing, Lone Star's with us. Where you been, brother? The next thing you hear is, well, the white man did this to them. And I'm not really here to debate that. Let's just back up from this a little bit and look. That deteriorated situation that they appear to be in, it almost seems to me as though it was an offer. Do you want to go this route? It's easy. And then a lot of things that came with it, especially alcohol and drugs. And they took themselves in that direction. Is that not what is happening in this country to us? Aren't we getting lured into dangerous areas with stimulus checks and easy living and cheap food from the store? I tell you what, that is the worst. It's not only inexpensive, but it lacks nutrient density. And without the nutrient density, how can you think? How is your brain getting what it needs to be running on all 8 cylinders, right? Or 10, whatever, 12 cylinders, 16, 18-cylinder radial, right? How can is that happening? Are there other things going on that are kind of dumbing people down a little bit? I kind of wonder sometimes. I mean, sometimes I'm not even wondering. It's almost like I'm knowing it. But then there are a group of people that are stepping away from the matrix, and they're saying, no, I don't want to live in that make-believe world. I want to live intentionally and in reality world. And I think that is what this movement is about. We have quite a few people come to us for this adult education. And now a lot of them are young. And you kind of quiz them like, what is it that is drawing you to this? And I don't honestly know if they can put their finger on it. They say that in the human heart, there is a void that's shaped like God. And so we all seek our creator. And I don't want to be too presumptuous here, but was this creation made for us? And I would have to say the answer to that would be yes. And have we turned away from it and just let somebody else operate it and hand us the macaroni and cheese when we get hungry, which is all day long we get hungry? Have we done that? Have we done that? I think we have. We discuss in our classes, I don't know if we discussed it when you were here alone, but I think when Andy was here, we did. I think. But anyway, we definitely do now. Because the conversation has gone this way more often than not, is along the lines of, hey, maybe something not too good is coming our way. Like we keep hearing about food shortages and supply chain breakdown and all these things. We keep hearing about that. I listen to this guy once in a while. I've told you about him. His name's Tony on Sale Daddy. And he seems believable to me. He connects the dots. And you see that, I guess he said today that oil is going down right now. And that's because there's less demand for it in China because they're locking the Chinese down. So they're not creating goods to send to the States. And so there's going to be a shortage of goods coming up here soon. I think that. So anyway, all those things are happening and you hear about them and they kind of make you feel kind of like, oh, geez, nothing we can do. I wish President Biden would do something about it. But he never does. And nobody ever does. Nobody ever really fixes things. They always like to keep things in a state of chaos down at this level where a lot of people are worried about what's going on. The people who are not worried are those who are, or not worried all the time, I should say. I wouldn't say they're not ever worried. Are people that are making positive steps in a direction that is filling that void in their heart. Does that make sense? They're filling that void in their heart and they're seeing, hey, I can see a way through this. We can get through this. Those are the folks that are not uh, all whacked out. I got a friend that actually I've been meeting with him kind of regularly. He started out as a milk customer, and he started showing up here, had a pretty tight haircut, and I was like, this guy looks awful tight, and I got talking to him. Come to find out, he says, well, I just got out of the Navy. Really? Oh, gee, what you do in the Navy? I says, and he says, well, actually, I was flying FA-18s. I said, really? Like, you don't meet many of those guys. You don't meet, you don't meet them at all. I mean, out in the perimeter. Probably Andy did. Andy probably saw pilots and knew them by name, F-15 pilots, but I wouldn't know F-18 pilots because I wasn't in the Navy. And then once you're out of the military, there's very few of those guys. Like there's less than 4,000 F-18 pilots. It's a very small community of people because we don't have all that many. I mean, compared to how many jets the Chinese have, we have a lot of them, and how many jets the Russians have, we have quite a few. But it's just not a massive number like the number of, say, Blackhawks that we have or Hueys that we have. It's a fairly small number of FA-18s. We just don't have that many of them. We don't need that many of them. It's a carrier-based ship, so it's limited. I really don't know how many F-18s we have, or F-16s for that matter. I mean, F-15s or F-16s. I really don't know. I don't even know if we still have F-15s. I really don't know. I've been out for 18 years, so. Okay, so we have entered into the homesteading arena. We have entered into small farming, sustainable living, intentional living. There's a lot of different facets, a lot of different flavors that it can be called. And I think what I have been doing lately is I have been embracing the reality of it as opposed to what we're presented with as reality. Like, we're presented with Joe Biden. We're presented, I can't even think of any of them on the right now. Okay, let's say President Trump. I mean, I think most of us like, but you got to admit, it was bizarre. Even though he did things that we liked, it was still bizarre. The whole thing was. And now this thing with Joe Biden is as bizarre, as crazy. I mean, it isn't like you would see behavior from the CEO of a solid, concrete company acting like either of these two guys. You wouldn't. They'd have to be businesslike. Or let's say when we were in the military, our officers, our squadron commanders, they were solid people. It was quite a winnowing process that they would go through to become in charge of what they had to be in charge of. But all we see out of Washington is just this bizarre behavior. The whole Wu flu thing was crazy, and it just hasn't come to a close. Then we see Omicron and monkeypox, and it's not going to end. It's like a weird matrix, but our countrymen are getting all wrapped around the axle about this. I mean, they talk about it. I hear people at family gatherings talk about, well, geez, I had Omicron, Tony over there, I think he's got monkeypox. Yeah, he's got it. I could tell. You see that tail coming out? He's got it. And they talk about it as its reality. And a lot of us kind of look at, I got to be careful what I say here, but like, this is bizarre. This is just nutty. But I don't have that same reaction in any way, shape, or form when I have a group of adults that come here and want to learn how to do one of the things that we're going to teach, whether it's cow butchering, pig butchering, chicken butchering, fence building, soils management, any of those things. It's all very, I don't want to say cut and dried. There's nothing bizarre about it. There's nothing crazy. You don't have to stretch yourself to say, oh, that's good. You don't have to work at it to think, well, he's just probably having a bad day, or he's probably just got, he's old, dementia. The president of the United States with dementia, and nobody does anything. Nobody steps in. I mean, the illustrious Republican Party, when are they going to do something here? The other guy, they impeached him, 3 times, and the Republicans couldn't do anything to stop it. It's nuts what's going on. It doesn't make any sense. And that's why I think it is the Matrix. It is a demoralization campaign, and it gets people in a rhythm of chaos constantly that they keep paying attention to. And I did too. It's really only recently that I can kind of like, take it or leave it. Just take it or leave it. It's like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay, but it's not nearly as exciting as listening to somebody tell me about planting trees and the correct way to do that and what kind of yields I should be looking for, things like that, reality things. Or, well, here's a different way to cut this rear shank, and you get some really nice steaks off this cut, and hey, let's fry one up. It's really good stuff. That's reality, right? Reality, and it makes sense. It's very grounding. But then you turn on the news and it's bizarro world. So I think that we have a great advantage as homesteaders, because let's say in your homesteading, all right, see ya. Let's say, like this morning, my days goes like this. On Tuesdays, I milk. So I go out and I assess the situation. I have to put the milker together. I have to get things around, make sure that the vacuum pump's working, everything's going to go as it's supposed to. And then I'm the one that's got to kneel down on the floor and wash the cow's teats off. Put the kick bar on her so she doesn't boot me. And then get the milker claw going and hold it up under there and thoop, 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 get it on. And then I'm watching the milk flow, and that's real milk. And it's going to be a certain quantity of milk. I can't make believe that it's more than it is or it's less than it is. It's really what it is. Where when we hear things on the news, and I don't really listen to the news, but I like to listen to some commentators that make fun of the news, sort of like Salty Cracker. I like to listen to once, or I used to. I just can't really get into it anymore because it's the same old bizarro world. He's commentating on, Donald Trump and on Joe Biden and on the press secretary and the blue hairs that are in the cities and Black Lives Matter and all. He's on all that bizarro stuff that isn't my life. And when I hear it and it twists my mind, I'm very lucky to be able to come back and milk a cow and then have a glass of milk. You know what I mean here? I'm unplugged from the Matrix via the Homestead. Today, I think I'm better off this year than I've ever been. And really, it started with doing this show several years ago. Was I would say to you all what you need to be doing for the day that we're at, for the time of season that we're at. Maybe it wouldn't be a show where I just tell you what to do, but it'd be like, well, it's getting to be winter. It's time to get this done and this done and this done. And then the next day I'd be like, well, I got to get this done, this done, and this done. And right now I'm actually in pretty good shape. We're going to get snow tomorrow afternoon, and then the next day and the next day and the next day. So that'll probably be it. That's probably going to be where our winter really kicks in overdrive. And I've got most of my stuff done. Most of my stuff is done. A good, real good chunk of it's done. So I'm in good shape for the winter, I guess. Where's I gonna go? Yeah, so that's reality. You have to do that. If you don't do that, you're asking for drama, and I really don't want that. So today we bedded both loafing sheds so the cows can go in and lay down, so they don't have to be outside. And then we moved a bunch of hay out of our building that got blown down, and because I knew it's just going to be a soupy mess in there as soon as we get snow. And we're going to start taking that building down and, kind of get prepared for what's next. We're going to have to build another building, and I think it's going to have to be a much bigger building because I don't really have enough room to keep the hay that I have now. So yeah, it's real life reality, and I was okay. So that's what the show is about, is the reality of homesteading and unplugging from the matrix. So you can do one of two things. You can keep a foot in both camps. I've done that for a long time. Like, I want to see what's going on. I mean, did they arrest Joe Biden yet? Did they string up Hillary Clinton yet? I want to see that. But then I think, who cares? Who cares? If it was on pay-per-view, would I pay $15 to watch her hang? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't care. And should I care? No, I think when we care about that, we're actually like paying into the system instead of using our mental energy and our physical energy to build our operations, our individual operations. All right. So let's talk about your individual operation as a homesteader. It doesn't really matter where you are right now. I'm 18 years at this farm, and then I had probably 6 or 7 at our first farm, but it was just part-time. I was still in the Air Force. It was like an hour away from the base, and it was 13 acres, and we had chickens and a few pigs and some calves. That was it. And milked a couple goats back then. We didn't milk any cows back then. And it was just, I hate to use the term hobby farm because I don't think that's really what it was. It was more of a training farm. I really don't like hobby farm. I don't like it when people call our farm, oh, well, yeah, a hobby farm. My sister-in-law let that slip one time, and I know that she'd heard it around the table that we're just hobby farming, right? So I don't really like the term hobby farm, but that's kind of where it started. It was just a distraction. We lived there, so I got some chickens. I didn't need them. It wasn't really feeding us, providing us with eggs. And then I got some feeder pigs one time at the farm store. They had them for $30, and I brought them home. I had no idea how to fence them or anything like that. I just did it, and that's kind of where it began. And then it has gone beyond that now, and our homestead is far more than just feeding us. We feed quite a few people. I don't want you to think that it's a small operation by any means. And we milk cows, and we take that milk into Cadillac now. That's been going, I think it's going to be our 6th week tomorrow that we're bringing milk in, and that's going really well. So we did a class down in Trufant at the Clerics a month ago or so, maybe a little bit longer. I don't really remember when that was. That was in November. Yeah, so it was quite a ways ago. And we were staying at a house down the road from them, exactly 5 minutes drive from them. And as we were driving to the DeCleric's home from the place we were staying, I was noticing these farmhouses along the way. It was really nice. They live in a really nice neighborhood, a lot of farms, but a lot of the land has gone over to I shouldn't say the big farms, but they have become big farms. So you have families that own tons of acreage, and then the acreage that went with the farm, it's just the farmhouse now, and maybe a few acres. But the houses are being kept up, and the barns, not so much, not so much. Cleric's barn looks good. It's old, it's a 100-year-old barn. They even showed us around in it, but they've fixed it up intentionally. But I was noticing some of the other farms that we passed and thinking that, if we could back the tape up about 100 years or so, those barns were brand new. And just think about walking through a brand new barn that's made completely of wood and stone, and the materials are new. Maybe not, maybe they've just been hauled out of the forest and hand hewn to make beams, but they're not so old that you can't smell them anymore. And the investment that would go into a giant hip roof barn like our barn, ours is really big. The investment that went into that was huge 100 years ago. And did they do that just to put their Christmas lights on? No, they didn't have Christmas lights back then. They put candles out there, right? No, they didn't do that. It was a state of the art build, is what it was. That was the best thing going. That was brand new. It wasn't like, oh, you can either build one of these or you can build one with steel like they do now, pole barns with steel. No, they didn't have that steel back then. They didn't do that. Like the steel, the rolled out steel, that didn't come until probably the 40s. So, or maybe the 30s, but maybe they didn't have it out here because I know our barn had shakes on it, cedar shakes that were made from around here from the cedar swamps. So, America 2.0, what is that all about? Why would we go to America 2.0? And I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I am looking in the rear view mirror and looking forward, and I can see a little ways forward. I can see smart people, and I see them. Maybe I have a better opportunity to see them than you guys do because we do adult education. So I see all kinds of people coming into homesteading, and they're all shapes and sizes, all educational backgrounds, all economic backgrounds, all kinds. And some of them, I've even said to them, why are you doing this? Because they appear to be doing really well in whatever it is that they're doing. But they're like, I don't think this is going to last forever. Oh, and you think homesteading is? Well, of everything else that's on the landscape, yeah. And you know how we know? You look at that barn right there. That thing's 130 years old. And that's what they built as state of the art technology. That's what they built. Will it work? It worked before. My barn is the type of barn that has a haymow on both sides. It's a drive-through. Why'd they do that? because when you cut hay, you're cutting hay with like a sickle bar mower, or maybe you're out there with a scythe cutting it, and then you're pushing it into a pile. Maybe you have a rake, and then you're loading it on a hay wagon. Everybody's helping. And then you drive through the hay barn. You have a set of hay hooks that comes down and picks that up, and then you pull it up and you slide it over onto the hay mow and drop it. And what's that hay for? That's what they're gleaning off the land to feed to the cows, 10 cows, to milk the 10 cows once a day. And then the milk goes out by the road and is picked up by the milk guy that comes by with a wagon. He picks up the milk cans and then he puts some milk cans down, some empty ones, and away he goes. And that's how they made a living. Now, we milk cows now. And if I was milking cows now under the America 1.0 system, and I was milking 3 cows, because that's what I'm milking right now, and I call up Michigan milk producers, hey, come get my milk. Yeah, we'll send a semi in there after it and pick it up. It'd be like a little squirt. No, they wouldn't. Matter of fact, if you have 80 cows, they're on the fence whether they'll even come get it. But they want 250 cows. They really want 1,500 cows. That's America 1.0. So one man is in charge of all that. Well, how does he do that? Well, he gets loans from the USDA. And then where does that take him? Does he ever really have control over what he's doing? You're selling milk to a co-op that tells you how much they're going to pay you for it. I tell you what, I sell milk, right? Milk's illegal, right? We've gone through that a million times. I'll probably have somebody on here tell me that milk's illegal. Andrew, you're a new guy. Andrew Fallman. Is milk illegal? Ina Stanley. I think it's because many of us in this community are focused. I know for me, I don't care to wrap politics or other personal beliefs into farming. Homesteading interactions I have with others. Yeah, I don't like to, but it does come up, and people are seeing it, and then they are looking for an alternative, and I think that they find their alternative in homesteading. So it's like you can't, you can't separate it by just not talking about it. You have to address it, because in the 1.0 system, it's a very fascist system. You are forced to do business with the government. They force you to do it. And they have all kinds of made up regulations that don't do any good. Unpasteurized milk is illegal. You're probably just saying that for fun. Is it on the controlled substance roster by any means? Is it? No, it's actually not. But people have said it so many times that for the person who hasn't really looked into it, they will believe that it's illegal. Yeah, Jordy says, I'm so sick of people recommending me to get a USDA loan for a startup. Yeah. If you do that, that is a way that they kind of pull you into the matrix. The matrix begins in a lot of places, and this might hurt people's feelings, but actually 4-H pulls you into the matrix, because you sell a pig at a 4-H sale. Whoa, I got enough money out of that pig for a college education. That's not reality. That's the matrix, right? And unpasteurized milk being illegal, that is of the matrix. Because if you get for your state the controlled substance roster, you will not find milk on there. And if you get you a bottle of unpasteurized milk and you get pulled over by a state policeman, you're not going to jail for a gallon of unpasteurized milk. And I've been selling milk for a long time, and I do it openly, and there is no there is no law. Again, there are regulations, and you have to understand the difference between a regulation and a law. Laws, we actually are in the United States, we are governed by consent, which means the laws that govern us, our lawmakers have put forth, and it's gone through the process and signed into law. So we've actually consented to that because we're not a democracy. I know they always say that. We're a representative republic, and we hire people to go to our state capitals to make laws, right? That's their whole function of the legislature, is to make laws. I really think that, we got enough laws, but anyway, there's a lot of ways to pull you into the matrix, and the matrix has little sayings too. And like raw milk being illegal, that is a spell, an incantation. It's gibberish. C4 explosive is illegal for you to own. Crack cocaine is illegal for you to own or manufacture. Methamphetamine is illegal. All those things are on the controlled substance roster. Not raw milk. Not raw milk. Not puppies. But you've been told it so many times that you just think, that what you're saying. Okay, Ina, you're saying here in Georgia will be allowed to sell raw milk starting in 2023. You're allowed now. But for some reason, Americans want somebody to tell them that it's okay. What I'm telling you right now is it's not illegal. You just think it's illegal, but you want the USDA to come out and say, okay, you can. Where if you're an American citizen and you're governed, that you're governed by law, and that law is predicated on the Constitution of the United States, which is the supreme law of the land. And you just go to the Fifth Amendment, which says your life, your liberty, and your property is protected under due process of law. And then you try to find some laws on milk, on raw milk laws. You won't. You'll find raw milk regulations. Who makes regulations? Departments. The Department of Agriculture makes them. And the United States Department of Agriculture. Are they lawmakers? No. And their regulations are their rules. Their rules have to do with their game. If you're a Fifth Amendment farm, you're an American citizen farm, you don't have to play their game. I don't play their game. So you already have the right to sell raw milk unless it's a controlled substance. And it is not. No place is it a controlled substance, right? So when they finally capitulate, like they did here in the state of Michigan, they say, yeah, well, you can do herd shares, right? But you need to tell us that you're doing them. Like, yeah, I'm going to tell you guys what I'm doing. Like, you have no business. You know how they send you that questionnaire, the USDA does, and they want you to fill it out? How many cows do you have? You're an idiot if you do it. But and they're going to come up with you're saying they're going to come up with some pretty steep regulations. I almost don't want to say it, but if you play their game, you kind of deserve what you got coming, if you want to play their game. And you don't have to. They can't make you play their game, but you have to be willing to say, like, let's say you get jacked up on it. Hey, you selling raw milk? First of all, if somebody calls you on the phone and this is Tony so-and-so from the Department of Agriculture, we heard that you're selling raw milk. I would say, go to hell and hang up. You're not compelled to speak to anybody. And you definitely don't want to be giving information about yourself that they want to use against you. But if they were out on the lookout for people to jack up about raw milk, here I am I've been doing it for how long now? You know, there's nothing, they have no recourse against you. You've made no agreement that you wouldn't do it. And it's not a controlled substance. So it's more spells and incantations. And a lot of it comes from the lobbying groups like the milk producers who have done a fine job of making sure that the guys that are producing the milk are poor and have no say in anything, right? So they're just working like dogs, milking twice a day, shipping their milk, getting nothing for it, and they can't say anything about them. A lot of them have taken loans, and if they squawk too much, their loans are going to get called. So then they won't even have a place to lay down at night. So anyway, America 2.0, I believe we're going to have to go back to what worked. And I recently had to do with milk too. Had this revelation, had to do with milk. Something that we were doing wrong in our milking operation. And a friend of ours, guy that mentors us, you guys know him, Joe Higgins. He gave me a list of things that I'm not doing quite right, and I appreciate it. And we got to looking things over, and I said to him, "Hey, why aren't we milking in the milking parlor where they used to milk 100 years ago?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know why you're not milking down there. They had a pretty good setup, and you guys just decided to do it differently." And so I looked at the barn like, "Hey, we need to operate this barn the way it was intended." Let me just give you guys some quick numbers on milk. When this farm was put together, they milked, and I know this because there is a book out called 80 Acres that I read 10 years before I even lived here. My mother-in-law loaned it to me, and the book was about farm life here in Missaukee County. And the people that settled here were mostly Hollanders, Dutch people. And this book was really quite interesting about what it was like in those days during the Depression, living on a farm in northern Michigan. And they all had about the same thing going. They would all milk cows. That was their steady income of dollars, right? Because milk has always been a good commodity, right? And 10 cows, that is what they were milking for the most of the time. They would have 10 to 15 cows on the farm. 80 acres was enough, and they could put up about that much hay in a barn like mine to support about 10 cows. Now, nowadays, we have balers that I could put enough for a lot more cows in the barn than that. And I actually do, because I have a baler, even though my baler is a 1960s model. But we have a great advantage. And 10 cows, a cow, let's just say they didn't have super high-speed cows back then like we do now with the Holsteins. But let's just say 3 gallons of milk per day. Times 10. 30 gallons of milk. I have no way of knowing what was milk worth in 1900. Let's see, that would be interesting. Let's say 1920. Value of milk per gallon, 1920. In the roaring 20s, milk was 35 cents or so per gallon. But when the Great Depression hit in 1929, fewer people could afford milk, and dairy farmers still had a lot of milk to sell, The price dropped from 35 cents to 26 cents. Okay, here's a good thing. Country living. Here's what things cost 100 years ago, prices in 1920. The average price of a half a gallon of milk cost 33 cents in July 30th, 1920. That'd be about $4.25 today. So for a gallon of milk today, if you're selling it at $8.50, it's about the same as it was in 1920. Isn't that something? And people are doing better than that, 820, 850. People are going 10. 10's a pretty average price. So it's about the same as it was. So if I put my barn back in production, milking 10 cows at let's say 850. Okay, I want to do this math because this is kind of good. Got to use my calculator. Okay, so let's say I've got 10 cows and times 3 gallons equals 30 times 8.50 equals $255. Okay, times 7 equals $1,785 a month. A week. 1,700 a week on 10 cows. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. And that's not, 90K a year. That's not bad. And that's a facet of the farming operation. Like Sean knows, okay, now you've got 10 cows. That means you're going to get 10 calves. Some of them are going to be bull calves. What do we do with those? Well, that's beef for the home, right? You're going to have more beef than you need. So why don't we get a little butchering operation going on the farm? So there's another facet. See, so spells and incantations, we hear them forever. And one of the most famous spells that we hear is, there ain't no money in farming. $90,000 a year. Don't tell me there ain't no money in farming. Don't tell me that. Right? And that's just, now, so I've been asked about the whole milk law thing. Well, why would they do a thing like that? And I say, well, if you had 100 people here in Michigan that were all milking 10 cows and they're all getting $8.50 a gallon for their milk, and they're doing a good job, what's going to happen to these guys that have bid on the hook of borrowing money from the USDA to increase their herd by 20-fold? What happens to them? You know? Yeah. All right. But those organizations are not prosperous. And will they continue? That's shaky. Will this continue? What's stopping this? What's in our way? What's holding us back? About the only thing people bring up is, well, they're regulate, they're down on you. They'll show up, they'll make it's fear. They use fear against you. They make you think that these things are going to happen. And then something dumb like Amos Miller comes along and, oh, look what they're doing to that poor Amish guy. Okay, Jordy says, as a teen, I worked on a dairy farm, knowing the conditions of health and cleanliness that somehow was within standards. I'd rather buy raw milk from your average homesteader any day. Yeah, it's kind of funny. you see places that are, oh yeah, this weekend I had a good time with this. I had a great time with this. One of the guys in the class said something to me about, well, because you're not, certified. Like he's like, are we in danger here? Like we're cutting up animals here. Are we in danger? Because you're not certified. Like, how are you doing this? Like, I don't know what they were expecting. Like, am I supposed to say because I'm a ninja or because I'm such a badass GI? They would never. No, I'm an American citizen and I have this blanket of protection from them that's called the US Constitution that ensures my right to do things like butcher a pig or butcher a cow or milk a cow. It's incredible. I mean, you would think that we're making machine guns or something, or we're manufacturing uh, IEDs. I almost said IUDs. Yeah. Ah, we're milking cows for goodness sakes. But the feeble-minded, they are taken with this notion that there's drones flying everywhere that sees that guy he just sold some raw milk. Raw milk. The raw milk police. Woo woo. It's funny. I'm not saying that you'll never have to deal with somebody questioning you, because a lot of weenies that work for the Department of Agriculture, they are overzealous for sure. They don't like the fact that we talk down to them and just identify who they are. They're weenies. They're not people that do the thing. They want to tell us how to do. And they went to college to learn how to do the thing. We know all about food safety. So yeah, this guy was saying, because we're not licensed and we're not certified and we're not approved and all that stuff. And I kept goofing on it. And I said, no, actually, we are licensed. And one of the women that was in the thing, she was, I kind of kidded her one time and I said, no, actually, I'm actually a midwife too. And she's, really? And I said, yeah, I'm actually certified. I said, and everybody's looking at me like, you're so full of you know what. But if she had said to me, well, who certified you? I'd say, well, that woman right there certified me. She's the one that had the babies that I delivered. And it's Jill. Well, she can't certify. Why not? I mean, how do you get to be a approved certifier? Do you have to be certified to certify? And who does the certification? Well, why am I not as certifiable as anybody? I guess I am. But the whole certified, and I saw it the other day. We were driving someplace. Oh yeah, it was last night, and we were going to go look at Christmas lights, right? And so I'm driving along, looking at the Christmas lights, and I have to take a left, and they'd changed the road, so it said delivery vehicles only. And I was going the wrong way on that delivery. But hey, I'm delivering, you know. And I saw another one that said approved vehicles only. I love that. Approved. I'm approved. My mom would approve of what I'm doing. I'm approved. Are you approved? Yeah, I'm approved. So we're actually, Baker's Green Acres is actually an approving authority. We can approve your processing. Loan's got something. Since the hog harvest was not licensed and certified, I got COVID vaccinated immediately after I got home. I bet you did. I bet you did. Can you send me a certified copy of your vaccination records? Uh-huh. Dweeb. Uh, so anyway, that's I think a lot of America 2.0 is going to require that those of us that are willing to go this route start to kind of think about our mindset when we go and do these things. Um, the class that was just here, I was about to tell you this. We got to a lull in the class, and I said, so um, if we get a notification on our phone that we've gone into, hey, Debbie's with us. Hi, Debbie. We're going into lockdown and martial law, and nobody can run the roads anymore. You'll be arrested. You cannot travel the roads. You all have to stay here. How would that affect you mentally? And then I said, there's something to think about, you know. Uh, why should we allow you to stay here? Why should we, what are you good for? What are you good for? And that's something that doesn't really get asked very much in the United States. Everybody's just sort of approved because they are here, but what are you good for? Do you uh, challenge yourself with, well, I don't really know how to do that, but I could know how to do that, and I should know how to do that, and I'm going to learn how to do that, whatever it is. Do people do that? No, there's no real pressure to do that. Actually, in the United States right now, if you're slightly tweaked, like you think you're a cat, say, you're actually special. You're actually special. Ah. Or if you were born, a uh, a boy, but you decide you want to be a dachshund, let's say, and you go into school and you say, "Hey, I don't want to be called. I want to be called Fluffy from now on. Don't call me John anymore. Call me Fluffy." Um, you're kind of special. You probably stick out as, oh, he's kind of, isn't that cute? He's special. Instead of, here's a guy that can make his way in the world. It used to be, it still is too, really. It's sort of a mind game that they're playing with us, that they'll take, little Johnny here that wants to be called Fluffy, and they'll make you think that, well, every other kid is like that. It's not true. It's really not true. Most people have this inner dynamo that says, nah, I'm a man and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And most women say, I don't want some guy named Fluffy for my husband. I don't want to breed with Fluffy. I want a man, a toxic man to breed with. Johnny Spears. I have been approved and certified more than once from Baker's Green Acres. That's true. You're definitely an approved and certified and certifiable. I just do that just to show how absurd it is, because it is so absurd. It really is so absurd. And then at the end of our class this time, we actually gave out a certificate. You've been through the Baker's Green Acres anyone can farm charcuterie class. This is to certify that you've been through it. And it was sort of tongue in cheek, but is it any less valid than a certification that you get from a certifying company that you pay $2,000 to just to get certified? It's time to do the thing, and you will have the power. You can go and get certified at it, but can you do it? No, but I'm certified. Why don't you just go learn how to do it? That's probably better. Well, certification will get me in the door. Why don't you just use your door, instead of having to go to somebody else's door? The whole mindset has to change. At one point, John and I were working at a table this weekend, and I said, you know what? If people don't want to get in the lifeboats, we probably don't want them in the lifeboats. As a matter of fact, if we convince them to get in our lifeboats, we're probably going to be sorry that we did. If they want to stay with the old Babylonian system that's going to crash around them, have at it. Stay there. if that's where you want to stay. It's like people ordering drinks at the bar on the Titanic, and then they say, "Gee, looks like the water's getting a little high in here. Bartender, one more before closing time, before sinking time." And some people are safely in the lifeboats because they can say, "Hey, this thing's going down. Let's get out of here." Craziness. But I don't think everybody's going to really want to go into the lifeboats, and I don't, I think it's okay. When everybody else is going north, it's a time to go south. I think that's some wise words. All right, there it is, 9:15. I made my hour for tonight with no problems. We have an interview coming up this Thursday, and it's going to be with Bryce Mosier. He's from Infinity Micro Farms. We haven't seen him on here in a while. Maybe he's just playing possum, but I'm going to be interviewing him. He's a vegetable CSA guy, and he's been making leaps and bounds from what I hear, and he's gotten himself into a couple other things too. So that'd be real interesting to see what Bryce has been doing. I haven't seen him in a while, and it's pretty sad because we only live about 5 miles apart. But, I think there's a lot of times when I think, I'm going to stop in on him, just say hello. But I know how it is when I'm working, and usually when I'm over near his house is because I'm going to the hardware store. It's not like because I'm out gallivanting. I'm going to the hardware store because I need a bolt or something. And it's whatever I got to get home and make it happen. But so I guess we don't do a lot of visiting that way. And then tomorrow night will be the consulting call. So if you are not a member of the Tribe Plus, you're going to want to get over to the Anyone Can Farm Experience.com, the Anyone Can Farm Experience.com, and look under Tribe Plus and click that notification right there. Click that notification and fill out the paperwork, and then you'll be in. It's a paid site, but it helps keep this ministry going. Helps keep it going because we're not slowing down. There's more and more and more information that we can bring to you via video, and this show is just a kind of a one-off. It's important, but Baker's Green Acres also offers consulting, in-person consulting, phone consulting. I got a big one coming up here this Thursday. And if you're a member of the Tribe Plus, you can come to our consulting meeting on Wednesday nights, and it's a Zoom call, and you can ask me any question you want. And we can go to the blackboard. We can be more specific about your thing. And we used to do the Q&A on Wednesdays, but we found like we're just giving information away. And I think people thought that that maybe it's not an important thing, but I don't want to cheapen homesteading. This is a very profitable and rewarding career field. And there's so many right things you can do, and there's probably a lot of wrong things you can do. And it's not necessary. I'm not saying that making mistakes is not profitable. It is. It's good. Teaches you what not to do. But it's like coaching. If you were going to be a professional hockey player, you wouldn't want to just go out there and make mistakes while you're getting paid the big bucks. That's what coaches are for. So a little help along the way doesn't hurt. Not at all. It can actually help you get further down the road on your journey towards self-sustainability, which I'm not making fun of at all. I think that if we were all way more self-sustainable, we wouldn't be slaves to the Walmart greeter guy, if you know what I mean. We all know what that's all about. All right, well, I got to get going. Appreciate you guys coming by. Our season is our instructing season is over. We will not be having any more classes until after the year, so that's really good. Lone saying, oh, Debbie's saying, oh, she's asking Crunchy, do you have classes coming up? I'm not sure if he does. I'm not sure. I'm kind of slowed down now, Sean. Maybe we should have a conversation on the phone. Last time I was kind of like, what? Say hello to the boss. Yeah, you too. See ya. Remember, anyone can farm. Night.